Okay, so today I kind of want to talk about 3D models, or 3D assets. They're the atoms of mixed reality, the stuff, the matter, and I think as AR and VR developers, it's important that we think about 3D models as real things in an alternate reality instead of thinking of them as just game assets. And whether you're an AR or VR developer, you're interacting with 3D assets every day. So I thought I'd delve into kind of what they are, go into the history of 3D assets, talk about current trends in 3D capture, and then go into what my company does with 3D assets. So I'm the co-founder of AutoAtom. We are a startup out of the CoMotion program at the University of Washington, and we do asset distribution for mixed reality. I'll kind of go into detail what we do a little later in the presentation, but basically we're developing a platform for the managing and distributing of 3D assets to mixed reality applications, and ultimately what we do is we save developers time and money. So I use the term mixed reality. I just thought I'd get that out of the way. I know some of you are like, why are you not using VR, AR? But really, this spectrum was designed in 1994, and actually, really in the late 80s, scientists were all trying to define AR and VR, and they came up with a spectrum where you have a virtual environment on one end and a real environment on the other end. And so right now our devices, they're good at. So right now our devices that we have, like the Oculus and the HTC Vive, the Meta, the HoloLens, they're good at occupying one part of the spectrum, right? And it's interesting. So at the 50% mark, right in the middle of this spectrum, is it mine?
Okay. So
forgive the technical difficulties here. Stay. Okay. But so the 50% point right in here, like no one has ever heard of augmented virtual reality, but at this 50% point, when your world becomes 51% virtual, it's now a virtual environment augmented with real world information. And throughout this entire spectrum, everything you see, everything you interact with is all 3D models. And ultimately we think that there's going to be one device that's going to be able to encompass this whole spectrum. So yeah, from the beginning of time, humans have been recording what's around them, the cave paintings, and then we got really good at painting. And the paradigm shift, the big one, was that we designed a machine where we could actually capture the world in a slice. We created a machine that replicated the human eye, and this was huge. And so I think if you look like, so in 1960, half of all pictures taken were of babies. And so it kind of shows that the medium really excels when it can capture what you really, really care about. And so just remember that as you're developing AR and VR applications. The natural next thing from cave paintings to photographs is 3D. And this is ultimately the final medium because it has the ability to replicate all other mediums before it. And it's actually the first 3D scan of a US president. Okay, so a little history about 3D models. This is William Fetter. So 3D modeling is a subset of computer graphics, and computer graphics, the term was coined in 1960 by William Fetter right here in Seattle at Boeing. And this guy created the first 3D model of a human for designing cockpits for Boeing, basically. It's literally the first 3D model of a human ever was right here at Boeing in Seattle, Washington. And then in 1962, this guy who you might have heard of, Ivan Sutherland, he's the father of computer-aided design. He created Sketchpad in 1962, which is like the first 3D computer interface. He also conducted the first 3D scan. He was always looking for ways to expedite the 3D modeling process. And so there's two ways to create a 3D model, or there's several ways to create a 3D model, but the two most common are computer-aided design, which is CAD, and that's kind of designing the model from the ground up, building the polygons one by one. But then you can also do a 3D scan, which is where you take a real item and you scan it from the real world and you scan it into virtual reality, sort of from the top down. So in the early 60s and 70s, 3D modeling was this pretty much. That's what it looked like. You had very basic wireframe stuff. This is what the public thought of 3D modeling in the 70s. This is from a movie called Future World, and these animations are actually done by the eventual co-founders of Pixar. So this is Ivan Sutherland again. It's actually the first 3D scan ever done in 1972, and it was done of a '67 Volkswagen Beetle. And it's a very manual process back then. There was no 3D scanners, no hardware that could just scan models into digital items. And so Ivan, with his team of students from the University of Utah's computer science program, they literally mapped out the polygons and the shapes and measured them on this Volkswagen, and then transferred them into the computer. And so while it took so long to do that back then, today we're starting to see sensors that can do this in seconds. And there's already 2 phones on the market today that can record 3D models. They're both Android phones, Google Tango basically. But it's highly rumored the next iPhone will have a 3D sensor on it. And basically what these sensors are going to allow us to do is to create 3D models as easily as you create a picture or a video with your phone. And this, along with some other trends that I'll talk about in VR, are I think, going to exponentially explode the amount of 3D models that are being created on a daily basis. And it's going to be the sci-fi future that we all imagine with holograms everywhere in VR and AR, I think. I think what's going to mainly enable that is these 3D sensors that are going to be on your cell phone. So another trend in 3D creation is we're starting to see VR and AR sculpting. And like this is Google's Tilt Brush. And ultimately what this is going to be able to do is make it so a 5-year-old can create a 3D model. And you can do this in VR and AR. There's an AR kit demo of someone doing this exact same thing, but in real space with their cell phone. So that's a trend with VR sculpting. And the final trend I'll talk about is video game exports. You can take creations from Minecraft and you can export them to the web and view them as 3D models on the web. And I think what this does is ultimately it represents a larger effort by gaming and movie studios and architecture firms to fully utilize the 3D assets that they're already creating. For example, everything in this room is already created in 3D, and I think that studios are going to start fully utilizing these assets with AR and VR. So in Odd Atom, we do asset distribution for mixed reality. We basically create the back end for distributing assets to your various applications. And this takes developers months of time. If you find that you're dealing with a large number of 3D assets, or if you're dealing with the need to update your 3D assets in your app regularly, then you need some sort of complicated back end. And we take all that pain away and do it and allow you guys to just focus on your core competencies instead of trying to build out this vast web infrastructure to distribute your 3D assets to your various applications. And this problem is actually compounded if you try to create a distribution system to multiple VR AR platforms. So if you have a HoloLens app and an HTC Vive app, trying to do web distribution of your 3D assets to both, it just makes it twice as much work. And so we solve all those problems. Just right off the bat, you can have web infrastructure set up for 3D distribution in seconds. And so I want to go into some use cases of some companies we're working with to explain better what we do and give you some examples of how you might be able to use our platform. So this is one of the companies we're working with. They're mixed reality food menu application, and what they do is they remove uncertainties that are inherent with the current food selection process, right? So you can now visualize your food in 3D in real size before you purchase. And I personally would use this every time before ordering pizza or anything. I think this would be awesome, just because to convince your friends you don't need to buy 20 pizzas. Look how big this is. So I think this is going to be like Shazam, where we use Shazam for food. Whenever we need to know what our food looks like, we use the app is called Kebab, and yes, not making a Silicon Valley reference. Second company we're working with is a medical company actually, and they what they do is they convert MRIs and CT scans into 3D models, And so what this means is they're going to be creating millions and millions of models as their program is used in more and more doctors' offices and whatnot. And so there's certain problems that are going to pop up for them. And for example, like how do you ship core applications to both AR and VR devices and distribute to a shared session with these models? There's just having millions of models, you're going to need some sort of web hosting solution. It'll distract from what you're really trying to do. These guys want to create this way for doctors to show their patients their innards in VR and AR, and to have to create the web infrastructure to do this is very distracting and time consuming. Another company we're working with is a VR museum company, and their goal is to catalog all of history's artwork in one VR museum so that you can have your own personal collections. And right now they're using technology to stream 2D paintings into their application, but there's no technology, no out-of-the-box technology to stream 3D objects into their applications. And if you think about it, a lot of humanity's artwork is all 3D models. There's sculptures and buildings and all sorts of stuff. And so with our platform, these guys can log on and have a solution for hosting and distributing and managing these assets in seconds. And the last company we're working with is a social mixed reality company, and this is one I'm most excited about because I think what mixed reality is going to do as it grows is going to allow whenever you're having a conversation, you're going to be able to have any 3D model at the snap of a finger right there, right? If you're talking about a Ferrari, you can have it right there. You can see inside it, you can make it huge, you can make it tiny, you can fit in your hand, or you could hold the 3D scan of a baby you made last night. This is made with a cell phone, like literally with an iPhone taking pictures. So I think we're starting to see the 3D modeling starting to follow the same patterns as the history of photographs. And so I ask you as VR and AR developers and enthusiasts, when you're creating content and adding AR and VR to your company, to think about tapping into what people really care about. And if you find that you are dealing with a large number of 3D assets or need to manage these assets in any way, please email me. So yeah, Odd Adam, this is my email. Any questions about what we do?
Oh, yeah, here.
How do you clean up your assets? I mean, are you doing text tracing and everything online?
Yeah, so it's all online. Yeah, so he's asking how we clean up our assets, like what we do once the assets are uploaded to our platform. And actually, some of that is semi-proprietary, but what we do is it does go through a suite of microservices where we can do things like attach colliders if you need to interact with the models in VR, or decimators, like if it's a huge CAD file, you definitely need to decimate it down and make sure it's ready to be deployed to whatever hardware device you might have, like whether it's a mobile phone. The requirements for a mobile phone are way different than like the HoloLens or the HTC Vive or Oculus. But yeah, we have a bunch of stuff that happens once you upload it. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. Great job.
Right there.